Hi, everybody. Welcome to another fabulous episode of the Killer Author Club. Tonight, we have the one and only Robert Dugoni joining us to talk about all the newest installment of his Keera Duggan series. I don't know if it's Duggan or Dugan. I meant to ask that. Okay, Robert, is it Dugan or Duggan?
I say Duggan.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the Keera Duggan series. We have tons to talk about, so grab your cocktail and your list of questions like that one for Robert, and we will see you on the flip side.
Welcome to the Killer Author Club. 3 best-selling authors talking about killing, of the fictional kind, with the best thriller and suspense authors in the business. Killer conversations, killer cocktails, and killer guests, with your hosts, Kimberly Bell, Heather Gudenkopf, and Keera Duggan. This is the Killer Author Club.
Hello to all of our new members and to the Killer Author Club OGs on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Wherever you're watching, we're so glad to have you here. I'm Killer Keera Duggan.
And I'm Killer Heather Gudenkopf.
I'm Killer Kimberly Bell.
And we're so excited to have Robert Dugoni here with us tonight talking about his new book in the Keera Duggan series, Beyond Reasonable Doubt. Like always, we've got tons of killer fun planned for you tonight. And speaking of fun, how about some fun in your inbox? We have a monthly newsletter now, only once a month. We won't bug you with anything else, promise. So if you'd like to be the first to know about our killer breaking news, breaking news. Starting later this week on October 11th, that's Friday. No, you can catch your favorite killers in audio form. That's right, we're launching the Killer Author Club podcast, which includes all your favorite elements from our live episodes, killer interviews and cocktails and independent bookstores, plus some killer extras and bonus content, a podcast exclusive after show where we talk about, well, everything starting tonight with Robert. So make sure to check his podcast, which will drop on Friday, for the Killer Postmortem. Links to listen are live on our Killer Author Club website. And while you're there, make sure to sign up for the newsletter. All right, but first, Killer Robert is in the house, and you know the drill. Drop your questions in the comments section so we can ask as many as we can of our killer guests. In the meantime, Heather, would you do the honors and introduce our guest?
I would love to. Robert Dugoni is the critically acclaimed New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, and Amazon charts bestselling author of the Tracy Crosswhite Police Procedural Series, the Charles Jenkins Spy Series, the David Sloan Legal Series, the Keera Duggan Legal Series, and several standalone novels. His books are sold in more than 25 countries and have been translated into more than 30 languages. He lives and writes in Seattle, Washington, and you can find more about Robert at www.robertdugoni.com. Congrats, Robert, and welcome to the Killer Author Club.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, we are so excited. We have so many questions about Beyond Reasonable Doubt and so much more. But can you give us a start by giving us a little brief summary of what the book's about?
Yeah, Keera Duggan is a Seattle defense attorney who swore she'd never work for the family law firm because it's completely dysfunctional. Her father is an alcoholic, but because of certain things that happened in the first book, Her Deadly Game, she finds herself working there and has to defend a childhood friend named Jenna Bernstein, who is a brilliant person who has started a company and is accused of murdering the CFO. The problem is Keera grew up with Jenna, and Jenna believes Jenna is a sociopath. So the big question is she going to free a killer? And what is that going to mean for her and her career going forward?
It was so good. We loved it. And so readers out there, get chatty and drop your questions for Robert in the comments. But first of all, it's time to talk about this episode's killer drink. Kimberly?
Yes, the killers love our cocktails and mocktails. So every episode, we ask our killer guests to come equipped with their favorite, and recipes for tonight's drink and all the killer cocktails that have come before are at killerauthorclub.com under the tab Killer Cocktails. Tonight, Robert chose an old-fashioned as his special drink. Robert, can you tell us why?
I've never really been into hard alcohol. But I had a horrible thing happen to me about 4 years ago, which was I suddenly developed a beer allergy. And I
Mm.
couldn't
Oh
drink beer.
no.
So when I went out, I would have a Jameson's or, something, but I didn't really necessarily like the taste. Anyway, fast forward, I'm at a bar at the club I belong to that I golf at, and there's a young guy there who's the bartender named Andy Sakai, and he said, "I'll make you a drink you'll like." And he made this old fashioned, but he makes it a little bit sweeter than you'll get it in some places, which I like. I don't like that hard taste, and so I kind of got that kind of became my drink of choice.
I love it. Well, cheers.
Yeah.
I'm drinking water tonight.
All right. The Killers started the Killer Author Club 2 years ago so that readers like you can interact with some of the best suspense and thriller authors in the business. Our fall lineup includes superstars like Geneva Rose, Jeffrey Deaver and Isabella Maldonado, Patricia Cornea. Well, that's right, she's back. Benjamin Stevenson, and so many more. For dates, times, and past episodes, surf to thekillerauthorclub.com. But tonight, we're here to talk about Beyond Reasonable Doubt, Robert's second book in the Keera Duggan legal thriller series. Kirkus Reviews said, a cunning masterclass in why you should always trust your lawyer and what it'll cost you if you do. Early reviews from readers on Goodreads include crack. That's the sound of Robert Dugoni hitting it out of the ballpark with Beyond Reasonable Doubt. I love that one. Robert can do no wrong in my eyes. I've yet to read a book by him that I haven't enjoyed, and Beyond Reasonable Doubt is no exception. All right. So, Robert, you're obviously a brilliant and accomplished killer. Now we need to know your answer to the killer question, which is, how do you kill?
Oh God, can I be perfectly honest?
Please.
Please.
I
Yes.
I really have a problem. You will rarely ever see a murder on the pages of any of my novels, especially my latest novels. Because it does kind of freak me out. You all know this probably. You know that life imitates fiction. So I have a daughter, and I won't write a book about a young woman in peril or a child in peril. I can't even read those books anymore. So mine tend to be sort of off stage a little bit, and I don't get into the gory details. It's hard. It really is, can be a little unnerving. One of your questions, your viewers asked, who gets into your head the most? Well, for me, it was Jenna Bernstein, because I met, especially when I was practicing law, I met sociopaths. I know they were sociopaths, and they are scary
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, she's chilling.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Jenna. I mean, she is frightening because she, is this young woman who is very smart, brilliant, really. And we slowly learn about her past and how cold she can be. Where did she come from?
Well, sort of a little bit of a mix of, some of the people that I dealt with, when I did practice law. There was one guy that was basically ripping off churches, telling them that he could build their church of their dreams. And, the guy was just a liar. And so just sort of different experiences. And basically what I've been told through talking to psychiatrists and psychologists is, they are incredibly bright people, and that's one of their biggest characteristics, because they believe that everybody else sort of, if they're too stupid to not get taken, then they deserve to be taken. I mean, that's sort of the attitude. So Jenna's a little bit of a mix of those people that I encountered, and then someone that came to me through a friend of mine who has had Parkinson's for 17 years. I refer to him as Dr. Dan. He's absolutely brilliant. And he is a doctor. And I said to him, I want to kind of create a company that's on the cutting edge of really finding something that could really help a lot of people medically that need help: Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia. And he sent me some articles on this technology called nanotechnology, where they can take tissue and change tissue, the skin cells, into cells that release dopamine, or the cells that release other chemicals to kind of combat these diseases. And I thought, wow, what kind of a person would prey on somebody else in such a medically compromised situation? And that's really how I came up with her.
Wow.
That's kind of chilling just to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they exist.
Oh, they do. I know. They're I mean, more prevalent than we even think, I believe. Like I think we're just starting to see them more, but
And understand that they're all around us.
yeah.
And they tend to be, it's so funny when I was doing the research on this, they tend to be people that are prominent, people that you see in positions of power in companies,
Like
you can,
CEOs.
and also lawyers.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, let's see, what lawyers do I know or practice with that are probably sociopaths? But it's frightening. They're most of the police officers and detectives I talk to tell you that crimes tend to solve themselves a lot of times because most of the criminals are just so stupid and make such stupid mistakes. But these are people that are highly intelligent, and I think that's really the scariest part.
And they don't really care. They don't care about anybody but themselves. So they will do whatever it takes to protect themselves and get away with what they're doing.
So that science that you do refer to in the book, that's cutting edge. That could be coming our way at some point.
Yeah, they're doing it now at a university in Ohio. And basically it's in the phase where they're just applying it to rats. And what they're doing is they're using it to heal wounds. They take an electrical charge into these skin cells at the nucleus level, and they're using those cells. They're creating cells that repair tissue, repair wounds. And one of the really big things that it could potentially do is, if you have a bad heart, if they could get it to become heart cells, they'd be able to repair your heart without opening you up. But they're a long way off, and that's okay. What I wanted from Dan was I wanted something that was out there on that edge that people could believe is coming, because we are getting so adept at being able to get down into DNA and nucleoids and all those things you see it all the time. You see it down in Silicon Valley and up here in Seattle over on Lake Union, where you have these companies that are really focused on biotechnology and all those things there, because there are these diseases out there that you think we should be able to fix this. They've done so much with cancer, with being able to, the immunotherapy that they can put in cancer. My brother-in-law, God love him, he's been treated with immunotherapy for melanoma, and he's doing wonderfully. I lost my dad in 2008 from melanoma. They didn't have the immunotherapy back then. Mm-hmm. So, and the other thing is that, like I said earlier, it preys on people's desires, their belief, their goals. Who doesn't want something that's gonna, heal them?
Sure.
Great.
Wow. I see a lot of people in the comments. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. Because this is the second in a series. They're asking, do you need to read them in order? Can you read this one as a standalone?
You can always read my books as standalones. I mean, I'm like all of you, I'm sure. I'm a firm believer that every story has to have a conclusion. I'll never leave a reader hanging out there where the story is not finished. But in a series, does it help to start at the beginning? It really does. Because in this particular instance, you'll understand why Keera is in the position she's in, working for the family law firm with her two sisters, everybody in the firm is completely dysfunctional. Her father has been a lifelong alcoholic, but an incredibly successful lawyer. Her oldest sister is her typical oldest sister. Her middle sister is the forgotten child and takes it out on Keera. There's all these different personalities that come into play.
Or you can be like me and read this one first and now want to go back and read the first one.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that works. Okay, and so I just had a question. Why do you think you decided to make both protagonists females in this series? I mean, the protagonist and the antagonist.
You know, I had something happen not long ago with one of my series, the Charles Jenkins series. It got bought by studios in Los Angeles, and long story short, they came to me and they said, we want to take the main character Charles Jenkins and make him a woman, but nobody ever explained to me why. And I thought, you know, no, that's not the book I wrote, right? I don't want that. And then I got on the phone with one of the producer's creative minds, and he explained to me why. He said, we don't want a story in which a male comes in to save the day. We don't think that is a story that is going to sell. It's not unusual that you see that way too often. We want a story with a female protagonist who comes in to save the day of other females who are trapped in this series in Russia, right? And when he said that, it made perfect sense to me. So one of the things that when I wrote the Tracy Crosswhite series, and I started that back in 2012, and I sat down with a homicide detective in Seattle, there was one female homicide detective in the entire unit out of 13, right? And that just makes her more interesting. And I'm not going to lie. You all also know one of the probably the fundamental reasons to choose a female is most of the readers out there are female.
Yep.
That's reality, right? And I think rightfully they don't want necessarily to have books out there where the man comes and saves the day and yada yada yada.
They save that for romance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, exactly.
My book, A Killing on the Hill, it's a young male reporter, 19-year-old William Schumacher and all that. But in these instances, I just thought a female lawyer, defense lawyer would be more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you're prolific. I mean, with all your series and your different characters, and each character is so different. But I think what we found is like the themes that you discuss throughout all your books have to do with loss, family, love. Why do you think those ideas permeate your work?
I think to a certain extent, we write about sort of what we know, what we've experienced, what we've been through. I come from a wonderful family. I have 9 siblings. I have 48 something nieces and nephews. It's a big family. It's a wonderful family. But my mother, God love her, she's 92. Her family, her father was an alcoholic. He was a dentist, and he was an alcoholic, and he was, she used to work in his office, and she used to be the one person that would have to go out in the waiting room and tell everybody, I'm sorry, Dr. Brannick is not feeling well. Can you all reschedule? And he'd be in the back, moaning and yelling because he'd been out at lunch drinking. And so I saw what that did to my mom, and I saw what that did to some of my mom's siblings. And it was just, I saw it at family occasions when my grandparents were still alive, and they'd come down, and my grandfather would get out of the car and trip on the curb, and it was, you could just see the pain in my mother, what hurt her the most. So when Gracie Doyle at Thomas and Mercer said, we'd like you to do another legal thriller series, would you consider it? Obviously I said, I'd love to, but I want to do it my way. I don't want it to be a straight legal thriller. I want there to be police procedural aspects in it, and I want there to be family dynamics. Mm-hmm. And they were totally on board with that. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote this in the way that it did, because it has a little bit of all three.
Yeah, that's really smart. I think that it gives it so much heart to the action. So you've got the pacing that's really fast, but you also have heart.
Yeah. And speaking as a female reader, that's my favorite kind of books, the ones that combine like the thriller aspect with the heart.
And the other thing I think that's important is understanding that we are all not just what we do for a living. Right. I can remember, I'll never forget this. I was helping a woman try a case, female attorney try a case. And one day I went into her office, and she just looked she just looked completely worn out. She just looked completely like, oh my God, what? And I said, what can I do to help? What can I take some of this off your plate? And she looked at me and she said, I just don't know what I'm going to make for dinner tonight.
Oh,
That's the worst decision of the day.
She had a family at home, right? It wasn't just a lawyer. She was a mom. She was a wife. She had all these things that she had to deal with. So one of the things that I have to be careful of when I'm writing these books is you don't just have one case as a lawyer. You have multiple cases, and those cases don't stop simply because you're in trial, and life doesn't stop simply because you're busy in trial. I remember another case where I was taking a deposition, and the attorney representing the person I was deposing was putting together a car, a little tiny wooden car. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, oh, my son's got a soapbox derby on Saturday and I forgot to help him build a car. So he was doing it in the deposition, and it's reality, we all have all these other things going on in our lives, relationships, and when there's a problem, it impacts all of our life.
Yep.
And you really highlight that with Keera's story, because she's wanting to get off on her vacation, and she gets called into this big case, and then she of course has issues with her father and his struggles as well. So you wave that beautifully throughout the story.
Right. And so how long have you been in Seattle? You were down in LA before practicing?
No, I was in LA a little while when I went to law school down there. And before I went to law school, I wrote for the Los Angeles Times for a small period of time. And that was back in, I want to say 1987, 1988. And even then LA was crowded, but you could still get around. And, for a 22-year-old, living down in Los Angeles in Manhattan Beach, I mean, it was like vacation, but it was hard. I grew up in the Bay Area. I grew up in Northern California.
Okay.
And my wife and I sort of had this agreement when we got married that I would get her home to Seattle, where she was born and raised, at some point. And so when I finally went to my partners and said to them, I want to take a sabbatical. I've always wanted to be a writer. It's what I've always wanted to do. And I'm not getting any younger. I really want to give this a shot. They were very understanding. They weren't pleased with it, but they were very understanding. And so we moved to Seattle in part because our son Joe had been born. And Joe was the first grandchild on my wife's side. He was like the 24th grandchild on my side. So my mom and dad were sort of done with the whole thing.
We had a baby. Okay. Yeah.
So we had help. We had help.
That's nice. Yeah.
I love it.
Really nice.
All right. So Renee is also asking, because you were talking about your daughter before, does your daughter read your books, and does she enjoy writing?
My daughter is really talented. She's very good at graphics and all those kinds of things. She's very artistic. I don't know, at 23 years of age, with everything going on in her life, I know for myself, trying to sit down and write a book, I think that would have been extremely difficult for me to do. People have asked me all the time, and I don't know if you all get this as well. They'll say, how come most writers, their first book isn't published until they're like 40? Yeah. Very rarely do you see a 22-year-old, 23-year-old, Greg Hurwitz, I can think of, Lisa Gardner. Those two I can kind of think of where they're young. And, my answer is, what would I have said at 22 years of age? Yeah. I mean, I didn't know anything at 22 years of age. I hadn't been really in probably a serious relationship. I certainly didn't have kids. I didn't have to go through the trials and tribulations that life puts on all of our backs. And I think that's when you start to really understand who people are and why they are the way they are. I just think it takes time.
Agreed. And it's also a money thing, because in the beginning, nobody pays. You have to write a book before somebody will buy your book. So
yeah,
that's right.
Absolutely.
But you took that leap of faith, and that's awesome.
And look where you are. Yes,
exactly. I know. Yes. All right, Heather.
Yeah, well, we could go on all evening, but now we are ready for the killer giveaway. So Robert is giving away 2 hardcover copies of Beyond Reasonable Doubt. So thank you for that. So it will be for two U.S. viewers. It doesn't matter if you're watching us on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. We scour the comments everywhere we stream. But please make sure to give us a shout out from about where you're from. So the question is, for a chance to win this, in which Pacific Northwest city does Robert live? So drop your answer in the comments and we will scour them for 2 winners.
What could it be? What could it be? So the Killers are big fans of independent booksellers, and we want to support them in any way we can, which is why we ask every author to tell us their favorite. Robert has chosen Booktree in Kirkland, Washington. Robert, do you want to tell us why you love them so?
Yeah, they were the first place where I did a book signing. And when I called up years ago after I had written The Cyanide Canary, they said to me, well, do you have people that'll show up?
Yeah.
People that are going to come?
I hate that question.
I was like, yeah, I have a lot of friends. I think I can get some people there. And I did. And they've just been always very, very good to me. And so Chris down at Booktree he has hand sold so many copies of my books. And it's just great to go down there. They're a small independent store, like most small independent stores. They're always on the edge. They're pushing, they're trying, they're fighting. And so they're my store. They're my hometown. And I'm really grateful to Chris for all that he's done for me.
I love it. Well, I just dropped the link in the comments so you can order Beyond Reasonable Doubt and all the others on your wish list.
There you go. And obviously the Killers love to read, and the Killer Author Club is the place to share the love for fabulous books. So post pictures, write reviews, ask for recommendations, and give yours as well. We love it when our TBR cups runneth over, which is why we want to ask Robert, what are you currently reading?
So I just took a trip to San Diego for a wedding, and right before I left, I was really lucky to get from my agents Tammy Hoag's Bad Liar. So I am, just sort of getting into it now, but it takes place down in the bayou, and she's just really talented. So I'm really looking forward to getting deep into it.
Oh, she's one of my favorites. I'm looking forward to that too. So good.
All right. And speaking of amazing reads, we have 2 new ones to add to your TBR. First, check out Dangerous Play by Elise Hart Kepnes. And her character, Kate Green, is back on assignment covering women's Olympic soccer, the story she hopes will reestablish her career. She just didn't expect that story to involve murder. It's a really good book. I've read it, and it's really good. And also, we have The Murderess by Lori Notaro. What unfolds in this work of true crime fiction is a collection of jealousy, drug addiction, insanity, rage, and inescapable choices. At its heart, a condemned and tragic mystery woman whose trial and its shocking twist will make history. Lori is giving away 3 copies of The Murderess, and Elise is giving away 3 copies of Dangerous Play to lucky U.S. viewers. Drop a comment if you'd like to be entered to win either of these books or both of them. And remember to tell us where you're from. Good luck. Oh, and don't forget to check out the Killer's latest books. Heather's latest, Everyone is Watching, is Big Brother Meets Clue and a reality show gone wrong.
And Keira's The Second Mrs. Strom is set in Paris and has the tagline, A Successful Marriage is Built on Lies. Ooh. And go ahead and order the next in the series, What the Nanny Saw, out in November.
And Paris is always a good idea, and so is Kimberly's The Paris Widow, about a dream vacation gone horribly wrong. And so membership has its privileges. So if you're on Facebook, check out our private members only group called the Killer Author Club, where all the killer magic is found, like giveaways. And every episode, the killers choose a name from the hat to win a piece of swag: t-shirts, mugs, candles, totes, hats, all of which can be found at killerauthorclub.com. And tonight's winner is Mindy Senoff Strong. So congratulations to Mindy. Drop the Killers a note, and we will get that killer swag right off to you. And folks, if you'd like to throw your hat into the ring to win some swag, all you need to do is become a member of our Facebook group. Link is coming up in the comments.
Awesome. Well, so Robert, we have some excellent news. You survived the Killer Author Club. Woo-hoo!
It was close, but you made
It was close.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you.
was close. So tell us and our readers and listeners where they can find you.
So my website is just www.robertdugonibooks.com. I have a newsletter on there. If you're so inclined, you can easily sign up for that. And I'm on all the social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Although I don't do Twitter very much anymore. But anyway, I'm on the usual social media sites, and people can find me there. Yeah, that's kind of it.
Love it.
Sounds good. All right. And that does it for tonight's episode. And we're all thinking about everybody who is in Milton's path. So wanted to put that out there. Thanks for everyone for tuning in, and make sure to mark your calendars for Jeffrey Deaver and Isabella Maldonado, who will both be joining us in 2 weeks on October 22nd, same time, same place, to talk about their co-authored thriller, Fatal Intrusion. In the meantime, please find us wasting entirely too much time on all those social medias that Robert just mentioned. For all the information you need, times, upcoming schedule, past episodes, recipes, and merch, surf to killerauthorclub.com. Thank you so much for being part of the club and for watching tonight. Good night.
That does it for tonight's show. Thank you for tuning in. If you'd like to catch our next show live, we're every other Tuesday night on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For times, upcoming schedule, and to catch up on past episodes, visit us at killerauthorclub.com. Happy reading. Now get on out there and kill that TBR.